Hello again everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another speed build video in The Sims 4. I hope you're all having the most amazing day ever so far and thank you so much for joining me here today. So, we are building a slasher camp in The Sims 4 today in the new world that's just shipped with The Sims 4 Adventure Awaits. It's called Gibbi Point, right? I'm pretty sure that's the name of the new world. But anyway, we are building a slasher camp and I've had this idea for a little while, I'm going to be honest. I've been sitting on this idea for a little while, and then when this pack was released, I was like, okay, this is kind of the perfect opportunity for me to actually execute this build, get this video out, and since it's spooky season, I was like, yeah, I think this just makes all the sense in the world. I have been sharing some work in progress, like screenshots, behind the scenes screenshots of this particular build over on my post tab. It used to be called community tab on YouTube, it's now called the post tab, so you may or may not have already seen this build or like the work in progress screenshots of this particular build. And I'm going to be honest, whilst I was building this at this particular point, because we are building on a 50 by 50 lot, by the way, so I was already feeling quite overwhelmed. And when I started building, I was like, okay, I kind of have like this general idea of how I want this camp to actually look, the feel that I want this camp to have. Obviously, it needs to have a very eerie slasher. You might get, you know, harmed if you stayed at this campsite sort of feel. However, at this particular point, I was just feeling incredibly overwhelmed. And I was just hoping and praying that it would actually come together and I could actually produce something that was half decent. Now, I am very, very happy with the end result, and the comments that I was receiving over on Instagram and on my post tab on YouTube were very positive, and people seemed really excited about this particular idea, and it was, yeah, it made me feel really good about it, because there were times when I was thinking, have I bitten off a bit more than I can chew here? Can we actually build this in The Sims 4 and make it look half decent? Is it going to look any good? A Sim's going to actually come here and you and your Sims are just going to feel this certain way. So, I am quite happy with this. You'll have to let me... Wow, I've had a very long day. just need to put that out there, so I apologize. But what was I even going to say just then? Do you know what? I don't even know. But it's okay. I am not restarting this voiceover. This is just what you're going to have to deal with today. I am so sorry. Anyway, so as you can see, we do start working on like the central location of the camp. So I did include some tents here. Well, I say some tents. I included 2 sleeping bags, a functional tent, and then a tent from, I think it's Get Famous. So it's actually just a tent for show. I'm going to be honest. The only reason that I added that was because it had this really eerie look about it. But if you would like to swap that out for an actual functional little tent, then I completely understand. It's just that we do have, in addition to this, we have like 3 cabins that each sleep up to 2 Sims. So I was thinking, well, you know, there's plenty of space for your Sims to actually sleep if they do decide to stay at this campsite. I mean, hey, I will not be held responsible for anything that goes on in this campsite. Like what goes on here stays here, that's all I'm gonna say. So I figured there was plenty of sort of space for your Sims to actually rest up and do whatever they need to do. But I try this this first cabin here. I was thinking of the cabin from, oh no, it's really gonna wind me up. What is the name of the film? Oh no, my dad and sister are going to be so disappointed in me that I can't actually remember the name of this film. Oh no, I'm going to have to try and look it up on my phone whilst I babble through this. Which I'm not going to be able to do because I struggle to do 2 things at once. But you can see that I did try to, try and do the cabin a certain way to begin with. And then it just didn't work out. So I ended up ditching that completely. And I thought, oh, let's put a cabin on a bit of an angle here. I haven't forgotten about the film thing, by the way. I'm going to be returning to it in just a second once I've looked it up. But this cabin here is pretty much the same replica as the other cabins on the camp. But I did decide to put this on a diagonal, which completely forgot that you can't put stairs on a diagonal. Sims team, can you please make it so that we can put stairs on a diagonal. I'm almost positive it's something to do with animation, is what I would assume. So I had to lower the cabin relatively close to the ground so that I could actually, the Sims can actually step up onto that deck. But yeah, then I build a cabin, you know, pretty much next door to this cabin. Now you will notice that I put some like little details above the windows here, which at the time I thought, oh, these look good. And then when I took the screenshot and shared it over on YouTube and Instagram, I was like, why did I put them on there? They look ridiculous. So I do end up removing them in the next clip. I don't think I do it in this clip. I'm just having a look because how many clips is on here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's like 8 different clips on this particular build because I actually built this over the course of a few days, just as and when I had the time to sort of sit down and actually film this. So it was a little bit strange because usually I feel like I would be able to do this in maybe just one sitting, just one evening. But I've just started my new job and I feel like I'm working from home now, and I actually feel like I have less time than I thought I would have. That probably doesn't make sense, but I think because I'm trying to digest all of this new information, I feel like when it comes to the end of the day, I'm quite mentally, not physically exhausted, obviously, because I'm just sat here, but I'm quite mentally drained and exhausted. So I feel like when it comes to the end of my like shift, as it were, quote unquote, I have been working past 5 p.m. quite frequently, especially this week, just because there's a lot going on. But I'm feeling like, okay, I'm just drained. Like, I don't really have the mental bandwidth or capacity to actually sit down and film anything. So what I'm trying to say is I actually built this over the course of a few sittings, whereas I think before I wouldn't have necessarily had to do that, if that makes sense. But it's okay. It is what it is. I'm still able to get the content out there. And this will be my second video this week. I've been producing one video a week quite consistently, I'd say, for the last few weeks. I get videos up when I can. You can expect at least one video a week from me. But if I can get more up, I absolutely will. I don't know how we got onto that topic, but I'm currently looking up this film that I'm thinking of. It's a very old film. I think it came out in is it the late 70s? I don't think it came out in the early 80s. And I'm just trying to think what I would search to actually find this. It's really going to annoy me. I might have to stop and then come back to it. I think that's a good idea. Okay, I've got it. Evil Dead. But the worst part is, it came to me. I didn't even look it up on IMDb. It came to me as soon as I stopped recording the voiceover. It came to me. Evil Dead, but the original Evil Dead. I don't know if anybody's actually seen that. It was a bit of a cult classic, I would class the film as. But they did like a newer released version of it just a few years ago. It's actually really, really good. But the original, I would class it as quite slapstick horror comedy. It's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, it's a little bit obvious, but there are definitely some creepy points to it. But in that film, there's this horrible cabin, and that's all that was running through my mind when I was building these 3 cabins. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just thinking of Evil Dead. Like, it was just in my mind, which isn't a bad thing really when you think about it, considering I'm building a slasher camp, you know, that's supposed to be creepy, possibly has somebody who likes to use an axe, might be haunted with ghosts, who knows. Now, one thing I am going to do before I upload this to the gallery, because at the time of me recording this voiceover, this build is not currently up on the gallery, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some tarot cards to this build, because one of the activities that you can add for a custom venue is that your Sims can use tarot cards, and it's like one of the objectives that they have to do. So I was like, well, if they use tarot cards here, I don't know whether it's maybe a camp it depends how you want to play it out. So it could either be like a camp experience camp where you and your Sims would come for just a spooky night and things happen on purpose. So you play with tarot cards, you tell ghost stories and all that kind of stuff. Or, you know, you could go a little bit more cynical with it, which is definitely how I sort of was thinking it would be used when I was building this. I'm just being honest, I'm just being real right now, okay? But it's exactly as described and marketed. It is a slasher camp. So I don't know how you would necessarily do this without mods, because obviously I don't think within just the game without mods you would be able to execute what I'm trying to get across. I'm trying not to be too graphic with what I'm saying, because obviously I don't want anyone to get scared. I don't want to say the wrong word that might, you know, potentially put somebody off. I'm not sure how it would work. I just wanted to see if I could build something that somewhat resembled a slasher camp. Now, one thing I was actually just talking about, obviously the slasher camp, obviously, because we're building it. Look, I don't know what's going on with me today. I'm so sorry. I've just hit my hand on the desk. So again, if you're wearing headphones, and I know some of you do. I know some of you wear headphones. So that's, first of all, I love that. Secondly, if you heard that, I do apologize. If you are just playing it through like your PC speakers or your phone or your laptop speakers, you likely will not have heard anything. I'm just gonna put that out there. And now, see, once again, because I've gone on another tangent, I've forgotten the whole point of what I was about to say. I'm gonna need to take a second, because it will hopefully come to me. Oh yeah, okay, that was it. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry once again. But anyway, okay, so I don't know if anyone's played Phasmophobia. I know from my most recent video where we built like a big haunted house, I know a few of people have heard of Phasmophobia and play Phasmophobia. I used to play Phasmophobia pretty much every weekend with my friends, and we haven't played it for some time. We went on to Demonologist for a while, but it's been a while since we've had a bit of a gaming sesh. So if you played Phasmophobia, you might be familiar with, I think it's called the something camp or the something campsite, I'm pretty sure. That was also in the back of my mind while I was building this, and that was the whole reason for like that central sort of bit with the tents and the sleeping bags and the fire pit and the everything. So Phasmophobia definitely played a part in the inspiration for this build as well, which I think was kind of nice. Now, something that I haven't actually mentioned up until this point, usually I'll work from I do apologize, I'm so sorry. Oh dear, this is like the worst voiceover ever. I am so sorry. But anyway, I usually work from reference images when I'm building in The Sims 4, just because I like to have something that I can refer to if I get stuck. I like to have something that I can look at. I'm a very visual person, so I like to try and recreate certain builds that I see, especially, like I say, especially on Pinterest. It could be Google Images, it could be something that I've seen in real life and I'll Google Street Map it. Whatever the case is, I usually work from a reference image or a few reference images. But with this, I had nothing. I had nothing in front of me. I did briefly Google the layout for the campsite in Phasmophobia, but it looks nothing like this. Like, it looks absolutely nothing like this. It's a little bit all over the place. There's a lot of, like, fences, obviously, because if it was all open plan, I feel like it would be a little bit too easy to get away from the ghost, right? So that's probably from, like, more of a perspective of, okay, well, if you're playing the game, the whole point is to not get caught by the ghost. If it was all open plan, it'd be a little bit too easy for you to just escape the ghost. So I didn't want to do that. I did want to fence, obviously, the lot in. So I do use this debug fencing from Adventure Awaits because it just seemed to fit the bill. So I did decide to use that. And fun fact, I had to update Better Build By about halfway through this video, because I realized that I still wasn't able to duplicate like debug items from that specific pack, because that came with a very recent update from the creator. By the way, thank you so much for getting that update out so quickly. There was definitely a me problem in that I hadn't updated in so long. So yeah, just so that I was able to actually eyedrop stuff and able to do what I needed to do without it taking too long, you know, if that makes sense. Oh, anyway. You'll see there's a lot of detailing that goes into this build, particularly with, just speaking of debug, particularly with debug items. I used a lot of landscaping, I used a lot of rocks, a lot of mismatched trees and bushes and like flowers and grass pieces to achieve the overall look that you end up seeing in the finalized sort of screenshots. And I would like to let you know as well, because I did ask this in my previous video. I asked if you prefer to have a live walkthrough of a build, or if you prefer to just see screenshots with music. It was a bit of a mixed bag, and I would say it was like a 50-50 sort of situation. So with this particular build, just because I've had a lot going on, there are just screenshots at the end of the video. So what I might end up doing is I might end up doing a little bit of a mixture. So some videos you'll see a live overview where I talk about my choices and just give you a live sort of overview of the build that we'd worked on. And then in other videos, you'll see screenshots just as normal. I think with this one, I think the screenshots were definitely, at least from my perspective, they just made more sense. Now, what I could do if you wanted to, I could also start doing, instead of screenshots or a live overview, we could also consider doing like some video stills, you know, of like in the game. So when you're in live mode, and I just set the camera and we just have like an ambience. Oh my goodness, what is happening to me today? We could have that going on as well. So there's definitely different options, but I just wanted to let you know that moving forward, I'll be doing a bit of a mixture. So you're never going to know what I'm actually going to do, which I think is kind of fun, to be honest. So let me know your thoughts on that. But yes, now we start working on the cabins themselves. This is the first one that I worked on, so you might notice I'm just looking at like the cuts of the video footage in my editing software. This one took me the longest because it was the first one that I worked on. Second one, a little bit shorter. Third one, even shorter than that. So you can definitely tell that I got into the groove of things as I was moving through the process and doing each cabin one by one. But I often find with spooky builds, and I did talk about this again in my previous video, we have a lot of items from a lot of different packs to achieve a spooky look. I'm going to try not to repeat myself, because if you've heard this story before, it's going to be a little bit boring. But I think you need a lot of different packs to achieve a spooky look. And we can do it. I'm very lucky in that I have each and every pack. Okay, thanks to the Creator Network, I have each and every pack. Now, what would be really nice is, and I said this before, so like, just bear with me for a second. If I were ever to be asked to collaborate on a kit or like whatever, it's never going to happen. And I did say this in my previous video as well. But I would love to collaborate on like, I don't even know what I would market it as, to be fair, but it'd be like a kit that had a little bit of gameplay element to it and a little bit of build and buy as well, but like just had spooky rundown items, such as a clock where the dial's cracked, you know, like the actual face of the watch is cracked, and like stuff like that, because I think it would be just a really nice thing to have just one pack to go to achieve this particular look. We've got like stains for the floors and walls from a bunch of different packs. So like vampires, werewolves, for rent, put them all together. It's fantastic. But unless you have all those packs, you're not going to be able to do that. Like these cobwebs that I use everywhere in these cabins, they're from vampires. So if you don't have the vampires pack, you're not going to have the cobwebs. Again, if you don't have like werewolves or for rent, you're not going to have all of the detailing on the walls. So I just thought it'd be kind of fun. It's a bit too late for it now, but I'd love to for them to release something like that around spooky season, around Halloween, maybe like back end of September or something like that. But that would be really fun, I think. But anyway, yeah. Pretty much chatted and rambled throughout this entire cabin because this is nearly done now. But these cabins were actually quite a bit bigger than I anticipated them to be. So I end up sort of giving them like a living space, and then there's a bedroom space as well. I was going to put kitchenettes in here, and then I was like, well, that just seems a bit ridiculous. I'm going to be honest, for like haunted cabins, it just didn't seem very necessary. Although, thinking about it, I don't know where your Sims would get food. Obviously, they can make food on the campfire on like the little pot above the fire. I don't know whether that would be sufficient just by itself, or whether I need to consider, again, before I put this on the gallery, I need to consider adding another avenue for grabbing food. I'm really not sure. Let me know in the comments, by the way, because there's every chance that this might not be available to download until like either later on this evening or maybe tomorrow, because I just want to finalize some bits. But yeah, if you think I need to add something a little bit more for your Sims to get food, then let me know. So obviously I would like it to be in keeping with the sort of spooky cabin-y feel that we've got going on, you know, because I wouldn't want that to be jeopardized just because, oh, I might just put mini fridges in all the cabins. I don't think sorry, that really makes the most sense, you know. Anyway, that's the main area of the cabin done, and then we do move on to the bathroom just here. I tried to make this as spooky as I possibly could. Obviously it's a bathroom, so I did my best with what I had. I'm hoping you agree. So there's like a few cobwebs in here. There's of course some of the wall details that we've seen in the cabin as well, so like scratches and like watermarks and like just stains and things like that. That was quite important for me to get across, but it was also really important for me to actually add these bathrooms to each cabin, because, you know, I didn't want your Sims to be without bathrooms. Even though I did add an outdoor toilet from Horse Ranch, just in case your Sims are roughing it and they do stay in just in the tents. Obviously they've got access to a bathroom as well, which I thought was a really good idea. Anyway, this is the second cabin. This is the cabin that's on an angle, so this was a little bit more difficult to furnish because I kept forgetting that I was on an angle. So when you place items down, I think automatically they place on an angle. My throat just gargled then as well. I'm very sorry again for anyone with headphones in. I'm so sorry. You might have heard my throat just gargle just for a second there. But anyway, yeah, this is the second cabin. I decided to put 2 single beds in here instead of a double bed. And then I think in the third cabin, I end up going with like not the same layout, because each of the cabins has a slightly different layout. But yeah, for the third cabin, I also used 2 single beds as well. So this is when I was getting my groove a little bit. So I already knew which items I wanted to gravitate towards and which items I wanted to put down. So like some of the artwork, again, like I think we need more spooky artwork. I think that's definitely another thing that I'd potentially add to a kit, is some more spooky artwork. Again, we have artwork that's suitable for a build like this, you know, if you're using multiple packs. But like base game has a couple of good ones, because I feel like base game is generally quite dated, and I don't mean that in a bad way when it comes to older artwork. Obviously I do wish, and they have been doing, to be fair, the team have been doing, especially this past year, they've given us like a new kitchen set and things like that. But yeah, it'd be nice to see a little bit more of a refresh on some of the items from base game. Although, as I was just about to say, some of the artwork from base game does work rather well with builds such as this. So yeah, I did want to use some slightly different furniture in this cabin as well, just to differentiate it from the original one that we've already worked on. Now, I didn't think Horse Ranch was going to come in quite as handy as it did. It definitely wasn't on the cards for me when I started building this lot. I was like, I just didn't even think, oh yeah, Horse Ranch is going to have some good items that I can definitely that I can use with this build. But it really did. It had some fantastic items, so I used quite a bit of Horse Ranch in this build. I think it's not pack restricted. I think that's pretty clear at this point, but I do like making that disclaimer for builds like this, because yes, this ain't pack restricted, but I did say this when I got super early access to Adventure Awaits, because obviously when you get CFE access, you only have access to the base game plus the pack that you've got CFE access with, if that makes sense. And I said that the pack surprised me in that when I was building my kids' summer camp, I definitely was able to build the camp that I had envisioned with just the 2 packs, which was actually really nice. But I did say that I sort of promised you all some more pack restricted builds on the channel, because I don't think I've really done many this year, like at all, which just doesn't seem right to me. But I'd like to try and do some more. I don't know. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Do you want more pack restricted builds? Are you happy for me to just like go completely nuts and just use all the packs? yes, I'd be very interested to know. But anyway, this is the final cabin. This is actually the final part of the build that we work on. Again, using just 2 beds, but going with different swatches, because it was very important for me for these cabins to be different from one another. I mentioned this during my CFE access, that it was, again, important for me, because I think I did 3 cabins at the kids' summer camp as well. I'm noticing a trend here with myself. I seem to like 3 cabins when it comes to building summer camps. Obviously, this is a slasher camp, so it's ever so slightly different. But anyway, and I did say that with that build as well, I wanted each of the cabins to have their own personality, their own character, their own color schemes, so that when you are playing in this, everything just feels a little bit different. Not everything is just exactly the same and just copy and pasted, because where's the fun in that? Things have to be slightly different, even though I do use some of the same items throughout the cabins, because obviously I'm going to, like, such as the wall stains and things like that, obviously I feel like that's just a given, because as we've just said, there are only so many that we actually have. So that's good for continuity. Obviously, if you're wanting to use similar like wall decor and floor decor and things like that. And I did actually, I can't remember if I put it in this cabin. I feel like I didn't, but definitely in the other 2, I added like this really odd brownish red stain to each of those. Look, you take from that what you will. But I also added like a really beat up fan in this cabin as well, which I thought was just a really nice idea. I perhaps could have gone to at least 1 or 2 of the other cabins and added that in there as well, but I decided not to do that. But then we just add some finishing touches here. I think this one has probably the most rugs out of all 3 cabins, sorry. For some reason I was like, oh yeah, I just need to add a rug in every single opportunity with this cabin. But you'll be pleased to know that we are now at the end of the voiceover, so you don't have to listen to me ramble anymore, which is great for you. So if you would like to download this slasher camp, it is available to download from the gallery under my origin ID, which is RachelPedd. Tray files, as always, are listed in the description box just down below. But I really hope you enjoyed this video, everyone. I cannot wait to read all of your lovely comments as always. But you all take care, and I will see you all again very, very soon. Bye!